Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah. Bismillah walhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. All praise is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank him, we praise him, we glorify him. We beseech him to send his choicest salutations upon his most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, and upon all those who choose to tread in his path until the last day. Alhamdulillah, we're blessed to be together on this Mubarak day of Jummah. May Allah make it a means of increase and benefit for all of us. And to understand and recognize that despite our physical separation, we are still beings who can maintain spiritual connectedness. And where buildings might be closed and apparatus that allows for us to engage in physical proximity, our hearts are always still open, or have the potential of being open if we allow for them to adapt in that way. In the context of so many things that have been happening over the last days, let alone weeks, months, there's so much that we can digest and consume that can create internal conflict and agitation that can be hard to reconcile. One of the challenges that we have in the prism of modernity is we have become technologically advanced more so than any other generation. We're able to engage to the far reaches of the universe, and we should celebrate human achievement in various fields. Like scientists being able to land on the surface of planets that no one could have ever thought was possible before. And to understand, as we celebrate achievement and advancement in those realms, so too there is room to acknowledge where there is gaps still nonetheless. And one of the challenges that comes in the prism of modernity becomes a diminishing of places where people can find stillness. Even somehow in the midst of pandemic, where so many of us are on our own, isolated, experiencing aloneness in a way that we have never experienced before, it still somehow becomes difficult to find tranquility, to find meaning, to find stillness in that isolation. If anything, many of us have experienced more anxiety, more strife, more internal conflict. And the challenge where we process now so much visually, through our ears, through our eyes, through our feelings, emotively, but not through a prism that allows for us to make sense or meaning, but through a prism that just piles on the negative, the heavy, over and over. We follow a tradition that teaches us that it's not simply our eyes that we see with, but the hearts that we have that beat deeply within us, our spiritual hearts, are what can create vision that allows for us to find meaning and depth. To understand what this means, we have to be able to not separate the physical from the spiritual, but to understand that both exist and to see where they have synergy and intertwinement. So you have a physical heart. I have a physical heart. And in the course of our hearts, we can understand the physical nature of our hearts and have even experts that can give us insight on them. My father is a cardiologist. He was literally a doctor of the heart. And he could tell you about the chambers. He could tell you about the diseases. He could tell you about anything that went into it on a physical level. The spiritual heart has a relationship to the physical heart, but still has distinction that necessitates us understanding that it exists first and foremost in order for us to then be in a space where we can awaken that vision in order to see, to be able to utilize it in a mode that uncovers whatever it is that veils for us the ability to understand where and how to respond. Because what am I supposed to do when people I know are suffering in the world? What do I do when I hear news of legislators and electeds fleeing from the state of Texas while the people that they are meant to serve are suffering with no power, no electricity, no heat in the midst of a blizzard? What am I supposed to do when I have built for myself conversations inwardly and outwardly surrounding a pandemic that now goes almost a year long? And that doing and processing of those things and so much more will fundamentally get attached to that spiritual heart. And finding places of stillness to allow for reflection, contemplation, understanding, a strengthening that reminds what is purpose to begin with. You got to sit down sometimes and just think about, well, what does it all mean? And what is it that people are chasing after when they find themselves in these situations and they respond in the ways that they do? And when I have an example in front of me that I know that I wouldn't want to be like that, what do I affirm for myself that I actually want to be? When I can close my eyes and look within, and I can navigate my internal, I can see what it is that is there, that exists as mental blocks. That if I start to explore regions of myself that I've never looked in before, with objective in mind, that I want to know what my destination is. I'm not wandering aimlessly within myself, but I know me because I am the one that has lived my life. I am the one that has lived my existence. I am the one that knows the feelings, the emotions, the pains, the joys, everything that exists and permeates through my entire being. I have lived it. I know what it is. I now need to want to understand it. And sometimes when I only see from here and everything is reactive, a mu'min is not meant to be a person of reaction, but a mu'min is meant to be a person that is proactive, a person of action. And that's not meant to be clever. That's meant to be reality. If we were to juxtapose the realms of existence that we move through, we have an abode of the souls, the arwah, your ruh, your spirit. It existed somewhere before it came into worldly existence. And the abode of the arwah, this is where we find hadith that tell us that if you have affinity to someone in this world, you just hit it off. There's a chance that you had close proximity in that realm where the souls have gathered. And if you don't get along with somebody, the same principle can apply. You didn't have relationship with them in that space. There are souls that exist in that realm at this moment that have not come into worldly existence. You have a place now that is the entry point into this world. The womb of the mothers that bore you and I, that is derived from the same root of mercy, rahmah, that the individual soul now, when it leaves from a place that has communal aspect to it, the abode of the arwah, and goes now into a place that is with the being that carries it. The first place that God puts you and I in after we leave from that space of souls is an abode of mercy, the womb. But here now still, we're not on our own. You are with the mother that carried you. And may Allah bless all of our mothers and make us those who understand the reality of Jannah being at their feet. We move then from the abode of Rahmah, that is the womb, and you enter now into a space that is the dunya, the materialistic world, that has again people and populations that are engaged distinctively from externals, race, class, culture, etc. And from there's the realm of the barzakh, the intermediary realm, the grave. May Allah make it a place of light and illumination for all of us and for those who have passed. You then have the realm of resurrection, of Hisab, the day of judgment. May Allah make us those who are given entrance into His Jannah without any judgment. And then you have eternity, what is forever, the akhirah. May Allah make us people of His paradise. Ameen. To understand the existence of these abodes and how they reconcile what's within, you gotta take a look inside, not in a way that is simply metaphorical or illustrative, but with a sound belief that says, I'm not just this body. I have a qalb, a spiritual heart. I have a ruh, I have a spirit. I have irada, sheer will and determination. I have a aql, intellect that enables me to discern right from wrong through what is God's decree of it. But I start to look inside and understand that it is my soul that is journeying through these places. And when I'm looking now, I want to look through the vision of that spirit, that ruh. I want to tap into basira, a vision of the heart. And I close my eyes and I ask myself, what's getting in the way? What are the ideas, the beliefs that I actually have? Not what I ideally want to have, or what I let people believe that I have, but what is it that is actually within me that governs my decisions? And how do I understand the relations of these various realms of existence that says that I started in a place and I'm going to a place? When you understand characteristics of these places, where you and I sit right now, we can't go back into the womb. And our starting point, when all the souls are gathered, that's not a place that we can rewind to as such. But we can focus on where we're at now in this world and understand it relationally to the worlds that are still ahead. And by closing your eyes and looking within and trying to ignite and illuminate so that you can see with that vision that is inward. And so your inner self can then dictate and define how you see what is outward. The distinction now between this dunya and the world that will come, the barzakh, the world that is the day of Hisab, there's some primary distinctions. One, when you go into the grave and you go into resurrection and judgment, you can't do things there. That's not a place where you can take actions. When somebody stands on the day of judgment, there's no hadith that says to us or verse from the Quran that, Ya Allah, can I make up my prayers now? Ya Allah, can I go and accept that apology now? Ya Allah, can I go and contribute to that family that's suffering in sub-zero temperatures right now? Can I go and advocate on behalf of that person that's incarcerated unjustly right now? Can I go and erase all of the words that I wrote electronically against people in the form of gossip and lying and backbiting right now? Can I go make sure my neighbor has food now? Can I go make sure that the orphan is adopted now? Can I go make sure that I fulfilled what I could have now? You can't do that in the barzakh. You can't do that on the day of judgment. Those are not places where actions are undertaken. This place is that place. And the paralysis that's created in the prism of modernity, where bodies are accentuated, physicals are fed, and spirits are denied and neglected, we tend to forget that the time we have here has uniqueness to it. There's a relativeness here in relation to our perception of time that says that it will feel just like moments in comparison to what comes in the world beyond this one. But the moments that you have here inform where and how we will be when we leave from this place. And so you don't want to put off what you can do today, because you can only do it today proportionally in terms of what lies ahead. When you close your eyes and you look within and you try to understand your individual role, you shift the paradigm through a vision of the heart that says that I can be a means of healing and mercy. I can be a means of growth and hope. I can be a means of strength and love. But I got to start looking from a different place so that everything that I see around me now looks different. Don't get caught off guard. Don't be the person who asks, can I go back and do it again? Because you have it right now. The allotment and allocation of days are a spiritual vehicle. Mortality's embracement is a way of a believer that does not see within it a finiteness that says this is it, but it's a means to something else. What you have that's characteristic here as well is a mode of engagement of populations. Because when you go into the barzakh, you go into the Yom al-Qiyamah, everything is going to be now individualized. A place of souls, a place in the womb where you're still with your mother, a place in the world, the dunya, where you're still with others. But now what has the means to personify itself for you in your grave are still again the actions that were there. The things that will intercede for you on your behalf on that day of judgment when everyone says nafsi, nafsi. The Quran will be personified. Your fasting will be personified. These are things that we are taught in our tradition. But we're not meant to be people who just absorb information. We take in visual, audio, imagery that becomes characteristic and sensationalized, the way that one would succumb to the ill effects of a pornography that elicit parts of carnal desire. The mode and method of engagement is still the same, to be able to shackle you to a screen so that it now bombards you with so much imagery and information and noise and so much that sensationalizes that you want to know and you want to absorb, but then you don't know what to do with it. You sit down and you close your eyes and you just think deeply within. Is this really where I want to go? And is this where it is that I see my purpose being fulfilled? How is this moment spent going to be one that will inform for me moments that are much bigger and longer and forever down the line? What is it that gives me indication of my own convictions, my own beliefs? And how do I start to see, even when my eyes are closed? How do I venture and I start to actualize the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam that tells us, ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله ألا وهي القلب, that indeed in your jasad, in your body, there is a morsel of flesh. If it is good, the entire thing will be good. If it is not good, the entire thing will not be good. It's your heart. And then you start to think about it. Another distinction between here and there is that Hisab does not come here, it comes there. You go through a whole journey here. You make your choices, you make your decisions. You do what you do and you choose to not do also the things that you don't do. And in the prism of what it is that you choose to not do, there's still things that come that you're accountable for. It's not that every action has immediate consequence in that sense. And you might know it, but we want to think about it and understand, what does that mean? That this is not the place of Hisab. This is not the place of accounting. The accounting comes in another place. To try to comprehend and think with foresight, and to then wonder how and where it all factors in to something of benefit. Contentment is derived by understanding and taking care of the world that exists within you. Discontent is derived by just putting everything on the world that is outside of you. Embracing control by being comfortable with uncertainty stems from embracing what it is that you do have choice and control of. You can choose to just sit and be still for some time and to leverage the trait that makes you and I distinctly human, our ability to think, our ability to reflect, our ability to choose how we think of the things that we think about and what it is that we're thinking about in the first place. That's all I'm asking you today to do, is to be a little still and to start thinking about your heart and how much you see from it and through it. To think about what it is that you do, not with it in mind, but at its expense. And is it really worth it? And as there's lessons in abundance all around us, what we take from those lessons. When you pray your Dhuhr prayer today, see and pay attention to your body. Do you get up to run and do something right away? That's not stillness. When somebody reaches out to you to talk to you, are you able to not pay attention to the notification on a phone? If it overwhelms you, that's not stillness. When a child in your life asks you question after question, and you get frustrated and agitated, that's not stillness. When a loved one, a spouse, tells you about something that's meaningful to them and you have no interest in it, that's not stillness. When an elder who raised you now needs you and you justify not being there to fulfill their needs, that's not stillness. And it doesn't mean that the symptoms are what we deal with, but just take them as signs that this place is not still and it's asking you to pay attention to it. And when it starts to be cultivated and nurtured, It'll allow for you and me to see things in totally different ways, with a recognition that contentment is in our grasp, that we are not just these physical bodies that need to be fed, but we are something much bigger and deeper than that. That we live through a different prism of what existence means. And death is not something that we are worried or afraid of in that sense, but we know it's just the means through which we go to the place beyond this one. The people who get ready for the barzakh, when the angels come and ask them, who is your Lord? What is your deen? Who is your Nabi? And they answer, Rabbi Allah, that Allah is my Lord. Wa deen al-Islam, and the deen of mine is Islam. Wa Nabi Muhammad, and Muhammad is my messenger. They're then told to just rest. And they're told to sleep a sleep, the hadith says, that's like the sleep that newlyweds sleep on their first night together. A rest that has deep peace and tranquility to it. Because they understood that this was the world through which they would have actions. And then rest comes for the one who got ready for it in the grave. And then Hisab, how you did, comes on the day of judgment. And then what's after is eternal forever. Spend some time on this day of Jummah just thinking about it. Separate yourself from the distractions and tap into that mode of reflective understanding. And if you come to a place where you now have a choice to make, think about, is it really worth going in that other direction of decision making, of choices? And allow for yourself to then weigh it out in the constraints of not just the materialistic world, but the world that exists within you and the worlds that lie ahead. And the first step is about closing what is visually most apparent and being open to that which is unseen, that which is hidden, but can give so much more meanings. We had some dua requests from members of our community that I would ask for you to say in your own prayers and say Ameen to as I ask you to remember them and their loved ones. There was a sister in our community who was pregnant and she unfortunately lost her child in the pregnancy, as well as a 2-year-old girl by the name of Penelope Lindsay, who is the daughter of Jack and Cassandra Lindsay and a close friend of Sabiha Fazl, a member of our community. Penelope passed away after battling with cancer at the age of 2. So we ask that Allah Azza wa Jal grants healing and relief to the mothers and fathers as they grieve the loss of their children, and sends them those who will only be a source of healing and support for them, that He gives them rest and envelops them in peace, and gives them the best of reunions with their children in the highest levels of Jannah in the world beyond this one. We had some members of our community who lost loved ones. Our brother Mustafa Hashish, his father has passed away in Cairo. We had a member of our community whose grandparents were unfortunate victims of terrorist attack in Somalia. Abida Miraj passed away from many different ailments, and she is the close friend of Samina Sheikh. Shah Jahan and Abdul Hanan passed away within 2 weeks of each other from natural causes. They are both the uncles of Asad Manan, a graduate of NYU in the class of 2018, and the grandmother of our brother Nadim Nizamuddin, a member of our community, has also passed away. Please make dua for their maghfirah, that Allah showers them with His infinite mercy and peace, makes their graves from the gardens of His Jannah, and grants them entrance into His paradise without any judgment. We had some duas for people dealing with sickness and difficulty. A special dua request for the people of Texas and all those who are facing hardship there. Sarfraz Siddiqui is in Pakistan, is sick in the hospital with sepsis. She's the aunt of Amna Siddiqui, a member of our community. Zahid Hussein has been on a ventilator for 3 weeks with COVID. He has 2 small children and is the close friend of the son of Shamsa Qureshi, a member of our community. We had a special dua request for all those who are struggling to find friends, community, spouses in the midst of this pandemic. A member of our community is going through many legal hardships and is taking a toll on them emotionally, mentally, and financially. Anwar Iqbal was hospitalized in Sharjah with COVID-19 and is on a ventilator. She's the aunt of Aisha Surush, a member of our community. And Musammat Leila has had a long and difficult hospitalization with COVID-19 and remains on a ventilator. She's the relative of Lamia Haq, a member of our community. And lastly, a sister Marikrar, who's the mother of 2 young children. She had a ruptured brain aneurysm and is in a coma for over the last week. She's a friend of Tasneem Qamar, who's a member of our community. Please make dua that Allah grants them all relief and ease, makes these ailments a means of purification in this world and elevation in the next, and gives to their loved ones relief as they deal with the reality of their close ones going through these pains. If you can join me in a dua, inshallah, as we close. Allahumma ameen, Allahumma laka alhamdu kama yanbaghi li wajhika wa azim sultanik. لك الحمد حمدا طاهرا طيبا مباركا فيه إلى يوم الدين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وفي الآخرين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah. Beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved, sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present herein and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all of their hearts that are gathered here, only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Increase us in courage, compassion, and confidence. Protect us from affliction, anxiety, and anguish of any kind. Remove from our hearts any feelings of bitterness, jealousy, animosity, or envy towards any of your creation. Grant us hearts that are filled with understanding and hope, hearts that are drawn towards things of real goodness and beauty, hearts that find themselves deep in your remembrance, for indeed in your remembrance do hearts find rest. We ask, Ya Allah, for ease for all those who are facing hardship in any place of the world right now. A special dua for our brothers and sisters in Texas, Ya Rabbi, who are facing great difficulty and trial. We ask, Ya Allah, that you send to them only the best of their supporters and helpers, and make us a means of benefit for them in their time of need. We ask, Ya Allah, that for all those who find themselves in any place of loss and ailment, those who are suffering in any way, that you grant them peace, that you alleviate them their pain, and that you send to them those who will be a means of rejuvenation, replenishment, a means of reminding them of your mercy and your love. We ask, Ya Rabbi, that you make us a means of benefit for your creation. Remove from our paths anything that distracts us from you. Make us those who are bold enough to ask of you that we only do that which is good. And we ask, Ya Allah, that you make each one of us those who do only that which is good. Let not any one of us leave from this place other than in a state that is most pleasing to you. Make the best of our deeds the last of our deeds, and help us to value every moment that you have given to us with a recognition that there is a world in store for us beyond this one. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah fikum. May Allah bless you always. Tonight, inshallah, Sheikh Aisha Prime will be starting an amazing program on female scholars of resistance in our tradition. It'll be today and tomorrow, a seminar. So please do join that if you can. You can find information on it on our website. I hope you all are keeping well and staying safe. If anyone is in need of anything, please feel free to reach out, inshallah, and we'll do our best to assist. May Allah bless you always and make us from amongst those who benefit from this beautiful day of Jummah. Wallahu ta'ala alam wa billahi tawfiq. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.